Rebel Galaxy is the free game this week on the Epic Store. My video is a bit later this week as I wanted to give it a fair go while also playing some of the betas this last week, so please forgive the delay. Double Damage, the dev team call this game a swashbuckling space adventure. In some ways perhaps that's quite fitting. The game tries to channel its inner Firefly, the main difference being you are flying a ship with a hell of a lot more firepower. The basis of the story is you are given a ship by your aunt, who you are initially trying to find. You end up with a device which houses an incomplete AI, and the AI will ask you to help find its other parts, and as you do, will provide your ship with extra upgrades of your choice. This is all voice acted, and the computer graphic characters are very well made. It's a basic story, but as with these types of games, it's more about having the freedom to do whatever you want, and not be limited by a storyline. If you have played any of the X games or games like Avorion, then you will be familiar with the basic gameplay of Rebel Galaxy. That said, the game is a bit more limited in its scope than those games. You can certainly fight and trade, with a heavy focus on the prior, but you won't be able to build in Rebel Galaxy. Combat is a big part of the game and leans into an old warship style, with full broadside shots and giving the impression of a bigger crew by having AI turrets mounted on the ship which fire independently. You can also equip secondary guns such as missiles alongside your broadside cannons or lasers, and the player can also switch to any weapon on the ship to independently control and fire them. The style of fighting also means, unusually for a space game, it is actually all on a 2D plane. While space is 3D and fighters will fly around you, the other larger ships will remain on the same 2D plane. At first I thought it was a bit of an odd choice, but since the ships you pilot are really aimed at being capital ships, it kind of makes sense that they would not be extremely maneuverable like the fighters. However, in turn it does mean that combat style is fairly limited, and after playing for a few hours there really won't be much of a change, so sadly it becomes rather monotonous. There are also issues with seeing what you are firing at, and the camera angles, especially with the second ship you can upgrade to, as it has a large section at the back that kind of blocks your view. I also found that sometimes it was a little bit sticky as to when it would let me aim and arm the broadside cannons. There are a variety of weapon choices, and many of these come in Mark 1 to Mark 6 variants or something in between. There are also some special ones only available as drops from enemy ships. Though the reality is, unless you want combat to be a slog, there are really specific weapons that most people will end up using, as they are simply much better than the others, and the lasers rate highly on that list. The same applies to other ship components. There are various variants and levels of each, but some are much better than others, so you're going to end up going down one route more than anything else. Once you are kitted out with the top gear for the area, combat becomes rather trivial, as you can pretty much smash anything there without any issue. That said, once you hit the next area you are back to square one, which isn't the best difficulty curve. You go from being nothing to being unstoppable to back to being nothing again. It would be nice if there was something in between. Combat missions are plentiful in the game, and there are various bounties you can pick up by talking to people in the bars at stations. However, pay from these is fairly limited, and it can be a significant grind to make more cash for the next ship or your ship upgrades. While trading can be profitable, the ships have limited cargo space. You aren't running around with a pure cargo ship like in some other games. Prices also fluctuate wildly due to events that can occur at the different stations, such as a mining rush, tech booms or blockades, so getting your timing right can be a challenge in itself. If you're into that kind of thing, then you'll probably enjoy it. The only issue I found was that often by the time I had sold my goods, I could have spent that time doing combat missions and made a lot more money. As with many of these space games, factions can play a significant role if you so wish. You can just play as the good guy, you can join the pirates, you can join the militia, you can join the trade guild, etc, etc. These open up new options for ships and components, so there are reasons to go one way or another if you want to. There are various other mechanics to spice up the game a little bit, such as the random events that affect stations which you can get involved in. You can also answer distress signals that you find as you fly around. There are alien invasion icons that will appear on the map which you can fly to and engage with. There are also pirate lord bounties that will be dotted around the map. And it is well worth chatting to people in the bars such as the bartender, as they will have helpful hints and gossip such as where to find these bounties. The stations are also a place to pick up missions, mainly combat, but there are the odd escort and transport missions that often also involve combat, so they're kind of combat missions as well. The game is a bit of a time sink. Travelling at warp can take a bit too long in my mind, and I highly encourage early warp upgrades, though even then it doesn't really speed it up significantly. I have also seen various comments on the forums about travel time, with some people saying that it's always under 30 seconds. I can assure you it is not. Sometimes it takes a lot longer than that. The graphics are pretty, as they are in many space games, though they have a more cartoony look here. The weapon effects are nice to look at, and objects like missiles have some nice fluid movements to them. I like the fact they went to the effort of animating and voice acting a lot of the characters, as that's something these space games from smaller teams often leave out. Sound-wise, the voice acting is solid. The music is trying hard to channel Firefly, lots of country, hard blues and rock. It's an odd choice for a space game, and initially it does work. However, a number of hours listening to the same tracks over and over, it gets a bit old. I think this is where opting for soft sci-fi music comes out on top, as you can have long tracks and many of them to give a lot more variety and not be as noticeable during gameplay. Though if you love country music, you might enjoy it for longer than I did. I really wanted to like this game, and there are certainly parts I do like. However, I fear that's from a fondness of the old X games rather than liking this game for what it is. The combat is unusual as far as space games go, and it feels much more like a sailing ship combat. While I found it enjoyable at first, due to its limitations it became rather boring by the end. Cash is a grind and is being used as a way to significantly extend gameplay, forcing you into repeated go here kill this missions, and after you've done 20 of these, they're just not very fun anymore. Or of course you can try your hand at the trading, which is again limited by cargo capacity and fluctuating markets, though it's possible to use those fluctuations to your advantage if your timing is good. But for me, trading was just not doing it for me. I enjoyed it much more in the X series of games. The faction standing, while a nice addition, did not really affect me much during my game, though this was partially my own choice to not get involved in it. The reality is, once you've done the first area, the gameplay in the next area is going to be the same, and thus it feels a bit like a time sink and, well, repetitive. For me, Rebel Galaxy gets 3 out of 5. The game is enjoyable for a number of hours, it's fairly well polished, it's got a nice atmosphere, and if you're wanting a chilled game to while away the hours, then this is for you. It drops points because of its rather repetitive gameplay that just doesn't manage to make itself fun or interesting enough, and thus becomes very monotonous, and the fact that cash is such a grind to get. Rebel Galaxy is free on Epic till the 19th of August, so grab it while you can and give it a try. If you haven't tried a game like this before, then you might enjoy it. If you have, then you definitely will enjoy parts of it. Thanks very much for watching, please smash that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you all soon for some more epic free game reviews.